तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्धूरे तत्त्वन्तिके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य तदु सर्वस्यास्य बाह्यतः तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्धूरे तत्त्वन्तिके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य तदु सर्वस्यास्य बाह्यतः तत् एजति, that moves, tannaijati, that moves not, tadhure, that is far, tadvantike, that is even near, tad antarasya, that is inside all this, adu sarvasya bahyatah, that is even outside all this. Tat, 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 he keeps using the word that refers to the Isha, the Lord, the Self, the reality, Brahman. The previous mantra was with reference to the microcosm. This mantra is with reference to the macrocosm. A very, very famous mantra. Now, what you notice, even before I get into the finer detail of what the mantra is saying, what you notice right away is the typical style of the Upanishads or the Shastras. And the typical style of the Shastras is they speak a language of negation. They speak a language of contradiction. As you notice, he says it is far, it is near, it is inside, it is outside, that moves, and it moves not. Contradicting. In fact, if somebody is impatient, they say, man, you make up your mind. Does it move or does it not move? What are you saying? Is it inside or is it outside? What are you telling? Be very clear, man. So it's not that they are not clear. It's not that they can't describe the God. It's not that they can't put it in a simple language. It's like saying, God, where is this? Vis-a-vis, where is that? Where we come across, where people say, God is in love with you. God is infinite mercy. He is merciful personified. God loves you, so therefore you also must love God. This definition of God is spiritual infancy. Where is that and where is this? They're poles apart. So the language of contradiction suggests the limitation of the language. The Sanskrit language is the mother of all languages. Nothing as profound, as subtle, as so beautiful as Sanskrit. So even the language as beautiful as Sanskrit cannot actually convey the reality. So it can't, the reality of Brahman cannot be expressed through language. So the language of contradiction is trying to establish that you can't capture Brahman through ideas and in words. You can't capture Brahman. You cannot define Brahman. So two things. Firstly, it is telling you that you cannot capture Brahman in words. You can't conceptualize Brahman. So it is highlighting the limitation of the language. Secondly, when you use this language of contradiction, it helps you exercise your intellect so that your intellect is evolving, and someday you'll be able to conceive Brahman, experience Brahman ultimately. You can't conceive it, but the only way you evolve is through the exercise of the intellect. So I repeat, the two purposes. Firstly, the contradiction helps you to establish rather the limitation of the language, that you cannot capture Brahman in words. You can't conceptualize Brahman. Point two, the language of contradiction helps you to exercise your intellect. Now let's exercise it. That moves not. Tadejati, tannaijati. That moves and that moves not. Now, what is it that moves not? It's very easy to understand that. That which moves not is the Brahman, the Atman. That doesn't move because it is all pervading, as we learned in the previous mantra. It is everywhere. It is motionless. Anejadekam. The word in the previous mantra, anejadekam, unmoving. Unmoving is because it's everywhere. It cannot move. You can also understand Brahman as the unconditioned consciousness, or call it the pure consciousness. I'm just introducing another term we have used in different contexts. Brahman or Atman is also known as the pure consciousness. In short form, you can put as PC. It's not your personal computer, it's your pure consciousness. Please consider. The PC is the pure consciousness, which is also known as unconditioned consciousness. So the pure consciousness or the unconditioned consciousness is that which moves not. Why it doesn't move? It is all pervading. And then what is it that moves? The move refers to the conditioned consciousness. Now, the conditioned consciousness refers to the jiva, refers to the individual. The individual, the jiva, is known as the conditioned consciousness. This conditioned consciousness moves. The jiva, the individuality, consists of the gross body, subtle body, and causal body. These are subjected to movement, isn't it? The physical body is moving, the gross body moves. The subtle body moves. Where does subtle body move? In the last class we learned, mind moves to areas known. Intellect moves to areas unknown. It moves, it travels. Vasanas move from this birth to the next birth. There is a transmigration. There's a transference that's happening. They move. When an embodiment, when a person dies, he has left a bundle of vasanas and is carrying forward those which are unfulfilled to the next birth. They move. That causes the death and the birth. So the gross, subtle, and causal bodies together form the conditioned consciousness, which is also defined as the individual, the jiva. So when he says, Tadejati, tannaijati. So what is it that moves? Moves is the conditioned consciousness. That moves not. is the unconditioned consciousness, the pure consciousness. Now let's take some examples, the familiar examples we often use just to understand what it is saying. In the Atma Bodha, we took this example. I'm borrowing the example from the text Atma Bodha. He says, when you look at a sky on a cloudy day and you see the moon, when your attention is on the clouds, you see as if the moon is moving. But when you switch your attention to the moon, you will realize very soon that the moon is stationary and the clouds are those that are moving, that are passing. Moves and moves not. What is it that doesn't move? The moon doesn't move. Relatively speaking, and don't take it literally, the moon also moves. But relatively speaking, the moon does not move. What is it moving? The clouds are passing by. The cloud moves and moves not. Second example, you are traveling in an aircraft. You have traveled 2,000 miles. You did move because you have left your home and went for a holiday to a chosen destination. You moved. But with reference to the aircraft, did you move? You moved not. You are sitting at a place. It was so comfortable. I didn't have to get up and stretch my legs also. It was so comfortable. I tell you, the business class nowadays is as good as first class, Ramji. The business class itself is as good as first class. So you don't have to upgrade to first class. I agree with you, sir. So very comfortable. I didn't have to get up and move at all. Yet I moved. So I moved. Yet with reference to the aircraft, I didn't move. Unmoving and moving. That moves not. Third example. As kids, we all played with reflections of the sun on the walls, isn't it? You had some reflecting surface and you played as a kid, didn't we? Nowadays, nothing. All they do is play on the tab. All that maja is gone. There's no maja at all. Any broken piece you get and you play with the reflections on the walls. So what moves are the reflections of the sun. What doesn't move is the sun, which is all pervading. Sunlight is all pervading. That doesn't move. But the reflections of the sun, that moves. Last example. Petrol in a car moves. Oh, I've got very good mileage and performance. Where do you put the petrol? Oh, I always go to that particular petrol station. It is, it is very trustworthy. They don't do any manipulation. It's not adulterated. It is very good, pure. It's a company petrol pump. Oh, how far is it? Oh, it is 20 kilometers from where I put it. So petrol did move when you filled into the tank, the petrol moved. Yet, with reference to the car, the petrol didn't move. It is very much in the same tank you put it. And yet the petrol has traveled 20 kilometers away from the petrol station, isn't it? Petrol in the car, sorry, just a little clarification. Petrol in the car moves, but by itself it does not move. In the car it moved. There's a movement from where it was to where it is, but by itself petrol did not move. There's no movement with reference to petrol. There's no motion, but yet it causes movement. It causes motion. So what you got to understand simply is the conditioned Atman. The conditioned Atman is individual, Jiva. The conditioned Atman moves. The unconditioned Atman, which is the self, does not move. Tadejati, Tannai Tadhure, Tadvantike, Tadhure, it is far. Tadvantike, it is very near. A very beautiful understanding. It is far for whom and near for whom. You can say it is far and near means it's everywhere, it's all pervading. You can also say that it's omnipresent. It's present everywhere. But God is very far. God is also very near, my dear. The question is, far for whom and near for whom? Where is God? He says, Tadhure Tadvantike. So you decide, how far is God to you? How close is God to you? The question is, what is it that determines how far or how close? Both definitions fit in. Both definitions are right. The question is, what is it that determines the furtherness or the nearness of God?
For those who are ignorant, it's very far. For those spiritual seekers, it's very near.
What do you mean, those who are ignorant?
Those who doesn't seek Brahman.
What are they seeking then?
They're seeking material happiness.
Then they are worldly people, isn't it? What do you mean it's far?
It's far for those who don't see it.
Correct. You are literally saying they don't see it, but spiritually speaking,
they have no concept of Brahman at all. They don't see it at all. It's very far for them. They don't seek it or believe in it.
that's perhaps the extremity of it. Those who, perhaps an atheist, he doesn't even see God. An ignorant person doesn't see God. He's not interested in it. It's very far. It's beyond his ability to conceive or perceive God. He's not spiritual. And yet there are people who go to great lengths to invoke a certain divine feeling within them. They go to great length. How far would one go to invoke or create that divine feeling? I'm in one part of the world and I have to travel from that part of the world to this part of the world to go to Tirupati, to go to Kashi, to go to Badrinath, or to go to Mount Kailash to experience God, to experience divinity. Where are you coming from? Oh, I'm coming from other part. I'm in some part of furthermost, remotest country in somewhere in Europe. I'm coming from Europe to Mount Kailash to experience God. Very far. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, those ignorant in the sense they don't understand the concept of Brahman. It is, sick.
It is not intellectually understanding. They are spiritually devolved. Ignorant people means a spiritually devolved. They are not able to understand the existence, a matter of fact. When somebody says a matter of fact, it's called as a Lakshana Vakya. Lakshana Vakya means a matter of fact. Brahman, God is everywhere. It's a matter of fact. It is not a matter of their opinion, isn't it? So when it is a fact, it has to be experienced. But when you don't experience it, it talks about your spiritual ignorance, your spiritual, how devolved you are. You can't see it. You can't relate to it. It is very near to whom? To a person who is attuned to that matter of fact, which is a reality, that Brahman is everywhere, right very near. Now, if I ask you, I know where you live, I ask you just for information, how far is the nearest temple from your home?
Are you asking me a question?
How far is the nearest temple from your home is a question only, unless I have lost little construction of language, I don't know. Huh?
Okay. It's
Simple question I'm asking.
Okay. 5 minutes.
5 minutes it takes you to go to temple?
Yeah.
Because I know I've been a guest in your house. I would say where you are sitting now, it will take 5 seconds. You come out of the puja room is right across the bedrooms. Once you walk into the aisle to the right side, there's a puja room. Is that any less divine? How grandly, how beautifully, how divinely you have decorated it. How pure you feel when you walk in, and I've experienced it. When you walk in, is that any less? Which is just a couple of seconds away, where you have created it out of your love and devotion. Is that any less than Mount Kailash? I'm only saying, the Shastras are saying, it is not any less. It is less because you are not able to see it. It doesn't make it any less because you can't see it, my dear. The same God which is there here, the same God sitting there, the same Brahman is everywhere. So don't give any extra credibility to a particular place because it has got a congregation or a following. It is not any less, not any more. It is far for a devolved person. It is very near to an evolved person. So the question is, how evolved are you is what you're going to find out. And that is how your vision is limited. And I can't change your thought process. If somebody comes to me and say, Guruji, I agree what you're saying, but still that place is very divinely, I feel very divine the moment I walk into that temple. It's a 1,000-year-old temple, and I feel very ignited, invigorated, inspired. But I don't get that same feeling when I walk into the local temple, full of crooks. All the fellows, heads of the temple, all the trustees I know, all the fellows are crooks. Number one crooks. Because these are all businessmen fellows. They are there for an ulterior motive. They are just doing, and all the politics also I know. I come to know everything. I don't. Moment I walk into a temple, more than the deity, all these fellows' images only are flashing in my mind. What is your association of thought? Is God any less there? Oh no, the pujari there in that temple is very, very, he does authentic pujas. Here it is little, I'm sorry to say, it is little corrupted, not pure. What is it that makes that place more divine? What is it that makes this place less divine? I cannot relate to it. For God's sake, you've got to relate to the text and the Guru. What is he saying? It appears to be more or less based on your spiritual development. Remember that. The same Krishna who is there in your puja room, the same Lord Krishna is there in Guruvayur also. What is it any less? The same Balaji who's there in Tirupati is the same Balaji who's there in your own puja room, because you got that piece of altar from that Tirupati. How is it any less? It is not any less. Tadhure tadvantike. It is far for a tamasic person. It is very near for a sattvic person. Question is, how sattvic are you? The same truth is very much within you. And the highest of sattvic person will unfold it within himself. He will realize it within himself. He will experience it within himself. If you have a difference of opinion, it's because you lack the perception, that's all. And I respect your inability to relate to it. You don't have the eyes to see it. And I'm not complaining. I can understand where you're coming from. As we learn, it all starts with a form and melts into that formless experience, isn't it? So when God is a formless reality, why are you confining it to a form? Why are you giving it a name? Why are you limiting it to a place? That name and form and place isn't a conditioning in my own mind. It's a conditioning in my mind. But if I rise above the conditioning which is created in my mind, I will be able to relate to the formless self, the formless reality, which he says is everywhere. So the first line, Tadejati, Tannai Tadhure Tadvantike. So profound. It's such a powerful mantra. Solongo Hariji. Yes.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Yes, sir. Hari Om.
Guruji, when we say that it is far and near, can we equate this with that the Brahman is like lightning, blinking, and mind? The example that was given in Kenopanishad?
I would not.
Okay.
What is said there is said there. Again, if we have to take a reference now, first of all, I have to refresh my memory what you said. And then everybody else is blank. So
no, we have studied that Kenon.
But my memory is not as sharp as you, sir. What to do?
It is. They have given example as blinking. It is the farthest, and
lightning is the farthest.
Lightning is the farthest, and blinking is the nearest. And the mind, it can go faster than the time and space.
You can, yes. Why I said this is only to trying to relate it to the context. Again, you have to clarify it.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. Okay.
But you're right. You can compare it.
Yeah.
Each text has its own beauty. So try to limit your understanding to the text so that you're with it. When compared to study, you can do it later on.
Okay.
Right, sir? And then tadantarasya sarvasya. Tadantarasya means antaha, that is inside. It's imminent. And transcendent. That is outside all this. Now, when he says inside all this, you got to go by what is said in the fourth mantra. He talks of the microcosm. It is within this embodiment. This is the individual. Every cell in this individual is pulsating with the Atman, the self. The microcosm is the self. But this mantra, he says the macrocosm, the entire world, that is there in the entire macrocosm. So it is within me, it is inside me, outside, as you know, it's everywhere. Now, but the real lift or the punch or the crux of the verse or the mantra, can anybody guess where is the crux of the mantra? Anybody, can I have an idea where is the crux? The real lift in the mantra. Gayatrima, put the translation again. Let them read and then guess. Attempt. The real lift in the verse, in the mantra. Haresh, any guess?
Hariom Guruji.
Hariom.
My guess, Guruji, is the crux is all this.
All this.
Yes. Both. The reason why I say all this, Guruji, is because it's inside and outside. So it covers the entire spectrum. Hence, I conclude that all this is the crux.
See, he uses the word asya twice. Antarasya, sarvasya. The word asya means of all this, in all this. That is used twice. Inside all this and outside all this. Isn't it?
Yes.
All right. I can't complain. Right? Okay. UK.
Namaste, Guruji. So he's saying it's all pervading, Guruji. It is inside, outside, and all around. That is even outside all this. Means apart from being inside and all that, it is all pervading.
Inside and outside means all pervading, no?
All this means it includes which moves not, which is far, which is close. That apart, it is also everywhere outside. That is, apart from all these clauses, it is everywhere outside. That's what. That is the.
Okay. And Hariji will not be given the permission to speak. Don't unmute him. Huh? Lakshmi Ma. At least for now.
It's inside, outside, and beyond outside. Beyond, inside, outside.
And how do you say that?
It's beyond the microcosm and macrocosm, and it's something infinite. It's something that hard to define. It's right outside. It's beyond all
See,
that.
that expression is what gives a lift. You have said it is inside, it is outside, and then what did you say? What was the expression?
Beyond.
I really don't know how else to explain this to you, man. I don't know, It is that state. Thanks, guys. Why we went into mantra 4, I don't understand. But the real answer was in that expression of yours where you said, I really don't know how to explain it. It is beyond all this, man.
Yes.
That element which is inside all this, outside all this, and go back to that verse, Gayatri Ma, again, please. That Sanskrit word which gives the lift to the entire mantra is the second line, tadantarasya sarvasya, the word tadu. The word tadu is split into tat and u. Sanskrit viched. We split the Sanskrit word. Tadu is tat and u. That word u, that alphabet u, means even. And if you read the translation, that inside all this, that is even outside all this. So the alphabet u, which is translated as even, that gives the lift to the entire mantra, which saying it is in the microcosm, it is in the macrocosm, it is even beyond the macrocosm, man. I don't know how to give it to you. It is beyond it. Simply take it, man. Don't question me. That kind of an attitude, he's saying, I don't know how to give it to you, because it's way beyond the macrocosm as well. It's even beyond all that. If somebody is trying to show you a parcel of land, he's got a large parcel of land, and he takes you to that. He says, all of this is mine. You see that tree there, that far away. See, is that tree? Yeah, that tree. It is still there. Actually, it's even beyond that, which you can't see it. I've actually got 100-acre land here, ancestral property, 100 acres I've got. What my eyes can see is only maybe 10, 15, 20 acres at the distance. I say it's even beyond that, man. It goes right far away. It's beyond that. That you can't capture, you can't perceive, you can't experience. He says it's beyond it. Right now you can't experience, but he says it's beyond it. So that element, that alphabet U, gives that staggering knowledge, that staggering depth. And please jot down this phrase, that disappointment, Harishji, please capture it. We're very busy. That disappointment is the starting point of knowledge. I repeat, that disappointment is the starting point of knowledge. I hope you are able to understand that. Hariji, Kudungo.
Guruji, can we say that it is within terrestrial and also transcendental world?
Okay. What is terrestrial? You can't say that. You can't say that.
Okay.
Direct answer is no, but I'm explaining that answer to you.
Yeah.
What
please.
is your concept of terrestrial?
Within the universe, which is
What all
reachable.
falls within the universe?
Everything,
You
which is
and the entire world, micro
Yeah.
and macro, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Micro and macro falls within the
Within,
terrestrial world.
yeah. Which
Now,
I
what
can
is your limitation of terrestrial world? What is your definition of terrestrial world? Which is micro and macro? Now, please define that to me. What is macro for you? Micro is easy. You say micro is this hurry, this individuality, 5 feet, 8 inches. I have lived 60, 65 years. I have this is experience. This is me. It is there in me. I understand. Microcosm, very easy to describe. Now, you give me your boundary of macro, the terrestrial. What's the boundary, sir?
no, there is no boundary.
Why you say no boundary? What is it? What is no boundary means? What?
Because boundary with respect to mind, yes, there is a boundary. With respect to intellect, I don't have any boundary. Because I can even inexperienced place, I can travel with my intellect.
Okay.
I can let it.
What is that? What is that?
That is the terrestrial world. When I'm talking about
That is your
gross,
that is your understanding of the terrestrial world, isn't it?
yeah, sure.
But if you draw a boundary and say this is where God permeates, the transcendental reality is there in the microcosm and the boundary of the macrocosm, which is the terrestrial world boundary.
Yeah.
He's saying it is even beyond that. So the description of the transcendental is beyond the micro and the macro.
Okay.
You are only putting a limit to the macro. He's saying that I can't describe you because it is beyond that as well. So it is not terrestrial and transcendental. You are trying to describe the transcendental, which is beyond the terrestrial, and terrestrial constitutes the micro and the macro. It is inside this. It is even outside all this. It is way beyond which you can't capture. It is beyond your intellect.
With respect to my mind and intellect, anything beyond my terrestrial world is transcendental.
No.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
not beyond.
fine.
That is not transcendental. Just because it is beyond your limitation, how did it become transcendental?
Okay.
Your concept of terrestrial itself is not
Limited.
precise. Is limited.
Yeah.
It's not precise. So
Okay.
just because it is beyond, we are still trying to describe the transcendental with reference to the terrestrial.
Okay.
Please understand that. Okay,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
So that the disappointment the guru is exhibiting is his inability to conceptualize God, because we remember what we learned in the Kenopanishad. God is not an object of thought. God is that which enables you to conceive. So God cannot be conceptualized in an idea. It is not an object of thought. And that is what he's saying. Whatever is your concept of God, he says it is beyond it. That's all he's trying to say. And all that is conveyed by the Sanskrit alphabet U. Tadu. It is beyond it. It is simply beyond it. Then Ramji, if this is the truth, then why are we racking our head with something which we can't understand? Simple question, Ilya. It's like trying to teach complicated applied mathematics to a kindergarten student. And let's say the kindergarten student is very disciplined, is very interested and not fidgety. He's sitting in front of you with folded hands and trying to attentively listen to you. And you are very eloquently speaking what? Applied mathematics, complicated mathematics of a PhD mathematics. You're talking to a kindergarten student. Somebody comes and tells you, what is this tamasha going on? A bunch of kindergartens, you enter a kindergarten school and you are talking applied mathematics, even a PhD fellow will struggle to understand. Why are you, what is it a joke going on? Wasting everybody's time? Exactly, that's happening, sir. Our intellect, the most brilliant intellects amongst us can't understand. Why are we going through this exercise? What is your comment to that, sir? Sorry, I had to
Namaste,
explain the
Guruji.
question, sir.
Namaste, Guruji. I
Namaskar,
think
sir.
it is important to explain because many people give up because they can't conceive or perceive the ultimate reality, and because they can't imagine, and so it becomes too complicated actually. So like you mentioned, if somebody is teaching them very high level mathematics to a kindergarten student, he will lose interest after some time because he knows that he is not able to understand it. But I think putting it in the form in which it can be understood by people of different levels is what, in fact, in this particular thing also, one can explain it to people who are not so evolved, that that it is there in anything that moves and it doesn't move. It is far and it is near. So while you can make it as complicated as possible, you can also make it as simple as possible in terms of explaining it to somebody who is at a different level of understanding. I thought that this shloka's beauty is that shloka, or whatever you call it, the verse.
Mantra.
Beauty is that the mantra. The beauty is that it can be explained to people at multiple levels of understanding in their own language. That's what I felt when I read it, because the way you explained is for people with a very high level of understanding, and I think you are assuming that all of us are at that level to understand what you have explained.
I just give an example, Lilia, sir.
Ah,
That clearly sets the tone.
correct. But if the same thing has to explain to people at lower levels, you can also explain using this. That's what I felt. That
Right. No, I respect your viewpoint, but where I'm coming from is whether you could be at a basic level of intellect or the most evolved intellect, the underlying assumption, what we are, or underlying point, what we are making is your intellect cannot conceive God. Then why are we subjecting ourselves to this intellectual exercise is the question. You're going to definitely fail. So why are you? It's like, so I'll give a cue. A very top player for sport. Let's say it's a single. I take a badminton which comes right away to my mind. He's a top coach, a national level coach, and he's trying to play with these young kids who are learning under him. And he says, come on, let's all one by one play few points with me. And all of them, 10 points they play. He's winning 10 love, 10 love, 10 love. And somebody outside is seeing all this drama going on. 15 kids go and play, each fellow plays 10 points. He's beaten effortlessly 10 love, 10 love, 10 love. You know, why are you putting these kids through this? You know, it is very, what do you call that? What's the right word? It is very demoralizing, correct. It could very demoralize. But is that the objective, sir?
no, it is to actually develop them. That is, it triggers the development, or it actually makes them think and makes them
Your
evolve.
help. It is actually teaching the game, not merely in theory, but in game. while practicing, you are actually teaching them. It's not the question of whether you win or lose. The question of the fact that you are in court, the fact that you're playing, the fact that you play against your coach, he conveys that art of playing. So you learn while losing, you become a better player. Similarly, it's not the question of whether you conceive God or not. You understand, my intellect cannot conceive God, yet I'm exercising my intellect to conceive God, because by putting myself through this exercise, I'm only exercising my intellect. I play the game with my coach not to win against him, but to improve my game. I can never ever beat my coach. I'm just an amateur. He's a world champion. Question doesn't arise me winning against him, but yet I want to play against him to learn the game. Similarly, I cannot conceive God, yet I will engage my intellect in the study of this knowledge, not to conceive God, but to exercise my intellect and strengthen it. So when you do that, there is utmost humility. You will not develop any intellectual arrogance that I know it. You will gain the wisdom which you acquire through the exercise of the intellect. Sir, we remember the intellect gains wisdom only when it's applied in this study of this knowledge. You don't gain wisdom when you apply your intellect in mathematics or physics or commerce or accountancy. No, you will get intelligence, but here alone you get wisdom. That's the difference. So the reason why we are applying our intellect here, even though we can't conceive God, is because we need to exercise our intellects. For what? To gain wisdom. So it's not the question of how much you understood or not understood.
Yes,
It's
sir.
impossible to experience God intellectually, but still we'll engage the intellect. Isn't it, sir?
Absolutely. Actually, if you allow me, I will give two very beautiful Telugu poems from Bhagavatam. Okay.
But please understand, there's a large percentage of people don't know head or tail of Telugu.
I know.
So the onus is on you to
Explain it.
keep them also in the loop.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sir.
sure.
Yes, sir. Please.
So in Prahalada Charitram, I mean, this shows the difference between Hiranyakashipu and Prahalad in terms of what you have just explained. So Hiranyakashipu asks Prahalad, Dembhaka sarvasthalamala ambhoruha netrudundu nanchu, migula samrambhamanu palikadavi stambhamana chopaгаlavani chakrin gekrin. That means he asks Dembhaka. Dembhaka means he is a small boy or somebody at a lower intellectual level. Sarvasthalamala ambhoruha netrudundu nanchu. That means you are saying that ambhoruha netrud is the God, lotus-eyed God. You are saying that he is there everywhere. Then can you show him in this pillar? He is Stambhamana Chopagalavis Chakrin Gikrin. He says Chakri Gikri is, he uses that in a derogatory way. Chakri is Vishnu and Gikri is the what we call as Vikruti. It is a Vikruti word. Then Prahalada replies that Indukalad Anduleden Sandeham Valadu. Chakri Sarvopagatundu. Endendu Vitiki Suchana Andande Kaladu Danavagrani Vinte. That means he says, he is here, he is there, he is everywhere. You don't have to have a doubt about it. Indukalad Anduleden Sandeham. Sandeham is doubt. So you need not have any doubt about that. Endendu Vitiki Suchana. Wherever you go and search, he is there. Andande Kaladu Danavagrani Vinte. So that shows the difference between the two. The young boy who could see the God everywhere and the old man who is asking, is he in this pillar? Then of course he goes and breaks the pillar and then you know what happens after that. So when you were explaining this, I thought the level of maturity or level of understanding is not related to age. It is related to the spiritual evolution of a person and how much. So that was the difference I just wanted to highlight.
I feel ashamed to say my mother tongue is Telugu because I couldn't understand a word of what you said. Yeah, I just It's such a, it's
No,
one of the most
it's a very
beautiful of,
beautiful, it's a very
yeah.
beautiful Telugu Bhagavatam
Yes,
written by Potana from Warangal only. You visited Warangal
right.
recently.
Yes,
And,
yes,
yeah.
yes. That's all, sir. I only visited the outside of Warangal, not the interior of the philosophical of Warangal. I don't know. Right. So it's very, in fact, Telugu language actually is one of the most sweetest and most beautiful of all languages. It's not an opinion. Many people hold it in that light, and that poetry is very, very beautiful, very philosophical. Thank you, Ji. Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyatah. The intellect trying to understand Brahman is like a dreamer trying to understand the waker. Any amount of effort by the dreamer to understand the waker, he cannot conceive it. But what can happen is a dreamer can only become the waker. It is that transformation, that becoming is what that makes you spiritually evolved or spiritually enlightened. Any amount of intellectualization doesn't give you that experience. It takes you closer to that experience by getting rid of your ignorance or avidya. Avidya in the form of your mind's desires and attachments, all of that would go. So when you are established in wisdom, what happens? The lower attachments drop, isn't it? You understand the impermanence of the world. Your intellect gets attached to the higher knowledge, but it doesn't give you the experience. The experience of the self comes when you become the waker. That's when you realize the self, that actual experience dawns. And in order to go through this journey, you need an enormous faith in the knowledge and the teacher. You need a lot of faith in the knowledge and the teacher, and then put an extraordinary effort. A lot of effort to begin with. You got to have faith in this seemingly contradictory approaches. GB Rao garu also will enlighten us with in Telugu. Chepan sir, namaskar.
Jai Gurudev, namaskar, namaskar.
Yes, sir.
The avidya is the only one. It is covered. We can't see the God. That is we can't even experience. It means the consciousness is because of number of births we have taken. All it is a tamasic and rajasic. How to come to a sattvic? That is the first that conscious level to understand. Atma, people say Atma, Paramatma. But how we experience within you, Atma is there, but we couldn't know even bit of it. The same, unless you do sadhana to experience, like, the either gulab jam or Mysore pak. We can't, without eating, you can't differentiate between everything. Both are sweet, but how to compare it? That we can't explain even. That is the same
Eat
thing.
both.
So the same, to reach him, the sadhana is required, the continuous sadhana. That is what Prahlada says, Endendu Vedikina, means wherever, unless you pursue it, if you don't pursue it, the belief, then if you don't have belief, nothing comes. Even if you have trust, then only it is possible to go through, and it takes its own time to get experience. That is to be experienced, not these 5 indriyas to understand. The indriyas in atit. Atit means it is atit from the indriyas, means it is above all. So experiencing him, that is what gnanam, that is Shakti, Aishwaryam, Sukham, Santosham, Anandam, Shanti, Daya, Karuna, Kshama, Prema, unconditional love, finally. That is what it is to be experienced. You cannot just go on talking about daya or karuna or any chama. These are the
We
things
need to
where
experience it. Correct.
yeah, it to be experienced. That is the God consciousness. That is everyone. If you are hearing wisdom discourses, slowly one by one, the all tamasic, rajasic will disappear. Finally, sattvic. That is ultimate. Is the goal for our meeting.
Sir, if you look at, there is no rajas and tamas. Only sattva is here, sir.
Yes, yes.
Only sattvic people, highly sattvic people.
So then there is no point in when once it becomes sattvic experiencing, that is the God.
Sir, I am very soon going to be jobless. I'm disqualified.
So
We'll be disqualified very soon.
I'm glad that we are all having Vinay. That without Vinay, nothing can go further.
I thought you said glad I'm disqualified. You said I'm glad to note that. I thought.
So we are getting Vinayam. Vinayam is the basic fundamental to reach the sattvic, and after sattvic also. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure that you're having the course.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Namaskar. Arunama, all following?
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om.
So far, okay, Guruji. I mean, difficult to conceptualize, but the explanations that you gave were very relevant, helping us to move along and exercise our intellect, I feel.
So, with reference to the first point we made, where he said that moves not. So, the sadhana all of us have to go through constantly is to constantly differentiate between what is it that is conditioned, what is it that is not conditioned. That perhaps if you constantly keep doing the exercise, this is conditioned, and then you will be able to separate the condition from the unconditioned. When we said, remember the first thing we said, conditioned Atman, unconditioned Atman. You get that, ma?
Yeah, yes, Guruji. Yeah, I understand that it is our perceptions, our thoughts, our emotions that condition the unconditioned pure consciousness, isn't it?
Yes.
So, yes. So, I mean, what I was trying to relate is, it is the thoughts that we should be careful about. It is where our thoughts are. So the moment, I mean, I was trying to picture in my mind, I mean, certain things. So I was thinking the moment our thoughts are always caught up with our body, mind and intellect, or in the external world, we will be moving far and far away from the Brahman, the pure consciousness in us. So the moment our thoughts are turned inward, then I think we are trying to get over this conditioning, trying to remove the impurities in us and so on. And that is how the journey begins slowly, step by step. But it is not an easy one. It takes a lot of effort. And I think this knowledge is actually giving us the wisdom to reflect and to understand it and try to gain that experience bit by bit. I mean, I'm relating to my life when I'm telling that the journey, how I look at it. That's what I'm thinking, Guruji.
Yes, certainly. The way you said is right. See, the sattvic thoughts are easier to get rid of than rajasic and tamasic. Ultimately, everything is conditioning. As we understand, thoughts condition the self, isn't it? But the grosser thoughts are rajas and tamas. They're difficult to get rid of. The subtler thoughts are the sattvic thoughts. They can be wiped off easily. So when you switch the proportion from the lower to the higher, from rajas, tamas to sattva, the experience of the self is easier.
Yes, Guruji.
I don't know whether you're able to get what I'm saying.
I know what I understand is like, for example, the knowledge of the difference between the sattvic and rajasic and tamasic thoughts and experiences. So when we are going through it, with the knowledge, we are able to relate to it and get rid of it. For example, like when I get when I am not in control of my emotions, this knowledge has given me that fact that, what I'm engaging in is a rajasic experience. So that helps me to control my thoughts and put an end to it.
Correct.
So that way, I mean, the knowledge is helping a lot in the evolution.
It will give you salvation also.
Yes, I mean, yeah, eventually that's what we are hoping.
Yes.
I mean, is
That's
it
what I'm
right?
saying. You must have the faith in the knowledge and a little bit in the teacher also.
A lot.
G.B. Garu said, I'm glad to know, but however, disregard that and have a little faith in the teacher also. Okay, ma?
Guruji, a lot of faith in the teacher. That's why we are still here.
Thank you, ma. G.B. Garu, my heartbeat is little reduced now. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think the reasoning is there. The journey is there. The process is set in. But always, it is important, and a guru always reiterates that you got to step up the efforts. You can't be sitting in a building which is engulfed in flames. You say, I will have a meal and then leave. I'm midway having a meal with guests and building into the fire. You'll say, let me finish my meal. No, it's a lovely evening and we have some special guests. I'll finish my meal and I'll leave. And somebody is banging the door, knocking at the door, and a lot of commotion going on. And you're saying, let me finish my meal. You don't feel a sense of urgency to get out of that place which is going to consume you. So our worldly attachments and our priorities to life is consuming us, and yet you don't seem to have that urgency to step up your efforts to get out of this bondage. And that concerns the gurus, that tamas, that procrastination is not acceptable. So the satsangs always regenerate our thoughts and efforts to step up that much needed effort. That's all I would say, ma. The rest you know it, but the effort has to be stepped up. Okay, ma. Perfect.
Yes,
And I'm not saying it to you. I'm saying to myself when I say this to you. I'm saying to every sadhak who aspires, because you can't relax. We don't have much time left. So many janmas have been wasted. I don't want to waste this janma anymore. That's the kind of thought. Thank you, ma. Yes, Lakshmi, ma.
I just wanted to share something. I just lost my husband, I think 20 days ago. I missed 2 classes. This knowledge has given me so much strength. I'm so glad, Vinayji, thank you. And every time I grieved, because I'm a human, but every time I go into the depths of grief, I always get the clarity. In fact, I put the essence of Bhagavad Gita. What are you worrying about? What have you brought? What have you lost? What is yours? That whole essence thing. And I keep reading it. I keep reading it over and over. And that gives me a lot of solace. In fact, in front of his photo, I keep that. I look at that and I keep telling myself, what if I lost that? I'm worrying, So the knowledge, no matter who or what you read, it's one, and it really gives you the strength. It brings you back to the reality, to something that to cope, not just cope with grief, but to say that, all this attachment is what is causing this. And in and out, I'm going through right now, but Without this knowledge, I would have probably can't even attend this class. I would have been so weak. But it's giving me a lot of clarity and strength. And I'm not over it yet, but every time I'm down, I just keep thinking of what the Shastras and what this knowledge is all about. And for that, I've got to thank you, Vinayji. For 15 years, I've been in this, and there's lots more I don't know, but I do know what I know. That's all I can say. And it's really helping. I think it will help everyone.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. No. It's never easy being challenged. Life challenges us, and no greater challenge than losing someone so dear, your life partner. It's never easy, and I don't think you can capture the depth of sentiment what this knowledge can do and what it has done. It's just going through it, you know what it is. So our thoughts and feelings and support is always there with you, Ma. You are being a sadhak, and it will help you, indeed help you. So just be a sadhak. It will take care of whatever life puts through us. It'll give you the strength to endure it with strength. Right, Ma? I'm glad you could come back to that fold of satsangs. It will be of great strength. Hari Om, Ma. Thank you. Right. We'll come back, and we'll get on with the sixth mantra, which I would lead you into a very beautiful concept, a very subtle concept, hardly spoken or explained. The sixth mantra talks of what is known as extrinsic illusion, and the seventh mantra talks of what is known as an intrinsic illusion. So I will explain this concept before I get into the explanation of, or as I get into that verses, the mantras, I will explain it. But it's a very, very profound concept. You wouldn't often hear of this because it's only the great Ramatirtha who spoke of it. So it comes in this context. I will take a reference to that. Okay. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.